Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 10.
A check of police dispatch logs shows a disturbing increase in domestic violence locally. The YWCA Women's Shelter reports a nearly 20% hike in calls, comparing this year and last year at the same time. Experts point to COVID-19 as a possible factor. However, shelters are seeing an even more disconcerting disconnect. Valley News Team's Katie Opperly explains.
From March through May, there has been an 18% increase in domestic violence calls in 2020 compared to the same time period in 2019.
While the Red River Valley Dispatch began receiving more calls, the YWCA and the Rape and Abuse Crisis Center say when the pandemic began, they did not see more people reaching out for help.
When people are more isolated, I think there's no question that power and control only has the opportunity to increase.
We were hitting times that were new to all of us. Everyone's concerned about their environment. They're very confined, worried about safety in numerous ways. And I think another thing was everything was shut down, so the belief was, where do I go?
Prochnow says that's not the only concern. The people who did ask her center for help did not follow through.
We have seen an increase of people who've called for help that haven't arrived after they've scheduled an intake.
Prochnow says this is not typical for the shelter. During a time of increased instability and pressure, it can be a dangerous combination.
With everything that's going on, I think that that the community is all tense, and I think that we are seeing, with the calls that we're getting, we are seeing more weapons, more hostility with the violence. There's just an increase. And that has been something we have noticed with the pandemic.
So shelters are spreading this message. They are open. Call for help.
Domestic violence, child sexual abuse, sexual assault, human trafficking, elder abuse, all of those issues are Rape and Abuse Crisis Center issues. So please reach out for all of them.
We're here for you. And please call for assistance if you need access to emergency shelter.
In Fargo, Katie Opperly, Valley News Live.
And the YWCA shelter has also partnered with others in the community so they could offer food to those in need. If you are in need of shelter, food, counseling, or other resources, find them on the VNL app by clicking on this story. Hennepin County's medical examiner has officially ruled George Floyd's death as a homicide. The report stated Floyd died from experiencing a cardiopulmonary arrest while being restrained by law enforcement officers. Results from the Floyd family privately commissioned autopsy were also released. The private autopsy says Floyd appeared to be dead before first responders even arrived. Minnesota's governor is extending a curfew after 2 nights of relative calm following destructive protests in Minneapolis and St. Paul. The state of Minnesota is sending some National Guard troops home, but the number of soldiers supporting law enforcement officers on the streets of the Twin Cities is not decreasing, at least not for now. Leaders from across the state spoke today, addressing the events that have happened since George Floyd's death.
To call this a painful chapter in our city's history is clearly an understatement. The murder of George Floyd has made very clear the systemic racism and issues that need to be confronted in our society, not tomorrow, but right now. So let's retain order, let's keep the peace, but let's keep that sense of urgency and lack of patience going forward because it is needed.
In relation to COVID-19, Governor Walz said that they are planning to have mobile testing in the cities for everyone. He's also asking everyone who has been out protesting and is starting to see symptoms of COVID-19 to isolate. The brother of George Floyd visited the site of his death in Minneapolis today, and while there, Terrence Floyd called for peace from protesters. Floyd joined a civil rights leader, a civil rights attorney, and a community activist to lay flowers and hold prayer at the site. Floyd told the crowd violence would not bring his brother back. He urged everyone to protest peacefully and said he knows his brother would not want anyone to be doing this.
My brother moved here from Houston, and I used to talk to him on the phone. He loved it here. He started driving truck. He was good. So I highly doubt. No, I don't know. I know He would not want y'all to be doing this. And I'm not saying the people here, whoever's doing it, relax.
The funeral for George Floyd will be June 9th in Houston. That's where he grew up. Still no word tonight on what led to the shooting deaths of 2 airmen on the Grand Forks Air Force Base. It happened early this morning inside the dormitory where no weapons are allowed. Colonel Cameron Pringle couldn't say how the gun got there or comment on the relationship between the 2 airmen. In the last 10 years, the Grand Forks Air Force Base has seen 5 deadly shootings. In reaction to the shootings, Grand Forks Mayor Mike Brown said the men and women of Grand Forks Air Force Base are not just friends and neighbors, they are family. And today we lost 2 members of the Grand Forks family. Tragic, senseless, devastating. They're the words, only words to describe. Our prayers are with the airmen and their families. Officer Cody Holte's funeral will be tomorrow at the Ralph Engelstead Arena in Grand Forks. Visitation is scheduled from 10 in the morning until noon. The funeral will follow at 1. This ceremony is open to the public. If you can't be there, you can also watch it on KVLY and on the valleynewslive.com. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum has ordered flags to be flown at half-staff from sunup to sundown tomorrow to honor Officer Holte. North Dakota has announced another 48 people have tested positive for COVID-19. 40 of those new positives are from Cass County. The number of active cases in the state now stands at 547. 35 North Dakotans remain in the hospital. There were no new deaths reported today. The state's death toll linked to the virus remains at 61. In Minnesota, they announced another 10 deaths from the virus, bringing the state's total to 1,050. Another 361 new positive cases were also announced today, with the active case number now sitting at 4,717. 549 Minnesotans are currently in the hospital. 253 of those patients are in ICU. Take it easy in the area of 45th Street South in Fargo. The heat from today caused a stretch along there to buckle. There's a bump in the road and there's some loose concrete, so slow down. With today's heat, we were all trying to get to some water today, but 6 or 7 of these little ducklings didn't quite make it. They fell through a sewer grate as they were following Mama Duck along Main Avenue in Moorhead. A driver spotted Mama, realized what was going on, and called for help. A Moorhead firefighter went down to the drain, into the drain, and then played duck sounds to lure the ducklings out, and they did. They got them out.
As the mom was going on the sidewalk's pretty high. The babies could not reach it. They tried to jump, and as they tried to jump, they went sideways and they fell in the hole.
Rachel says with all the sad news lately, she was glad this story had a happy ending, and I couldn't agree with her more.